Hello, everyone. How are we doing? It is week 4 of our public speaking 14-week class. So that means we have 10 weeks left, which it feels long, but I feel like us already being at week 4 is kind of crazy. Um, so it's been going quick. So just to kind of review from last week. So in our lecture, we talked about audience analysis, and then on Wednesday, we did our demo speeches, which was so exciting. Our first speech under our belt, checked off the checklist. Um, one down, three to go. We're killing it. So usually I would do this in class, but next week I want to make sure we have enough time because our informative speech is also coming up real quick after this one. So, um, things I kind of want you to think about after doing our demo speech, also getting your grade, seeing other people go, some questions I kind of want you to reflect on after our speech day, I want you to think of what were some takeaways from the demo speech? What did you learn? Did anyone do anything that you thought was really great that you wanted to implement in your speech in the future? Um, Yeah, I wish we did it in person so you give kudos, but we'll probably do it for our next speeches. But next question of the day, we're going to go over informative topics, which I think is super important for us to do. But okay, demo speeches, if you got a grade that, you weren't really happy about, Um, remember, it's the first speech. It's the lowest stake one, right? It's out of 100, where each speech we're gonna go up by 50 points the more you learn. Um, and I will say I graded this hard, right? I wanted you to know what I'm looking for, what my expectations are. Um, so yeah. So great job. If you weren't happy with your grade, right? We have your next speech. You're gonna kill it, and it's not the end of the world, and you're gonna do great. Okay, well, let us get into our day. So today's agenda, we're gonna go over listening effectively. I'm going to assign the informative speech. We'll review, and then we have our assignments. I'm I'm gonna say this now because literally I know I'm gonna forget at the end. Um, but so we talked about audience analysis last week. So for our Wednesday class, I believe if if everything goes to plan, we're gonna do an in-class challenge over audience analysis. So I want you to review those notes from last week, and then also there's gonna be a quiz over our notes as well. So quiz 4 is going to be over audience analysis, and then quiz 5 is going to be over listening effectively. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. I know it was right before our demo speeches I went over audience analysis. So I just want to make sure that we all know what's going on and it makes sense. So, well, without further ado, let's get into listening effectively. So, what we know about listening and listening effectively, right? So, as just people in life, we spend around 50 to 70% of our communication listening, which is insane. I would have thought, most of the time we're yapping constantly. But actually, right, 50 to 70% of it is, and that communication is listening. And as college students, y'all spend 63% of your time listening, right? Most of your classes are just you sitting, listening to an instructor tell you what's going on. Right now, right, I got no feedback from y'all. So in this scenario, for an hour, 20 minutes, y'all are just listening to me talk, right? You're using that listening. So some questions I kind of want us to reflect on and think of. So you have a piece of paper or whatever, write these down and take a second to answer these. So first in our daily lives, when do we listen? What types of things are we listening to? When are times it is important that we listen or others listen to us? How does it make us feel when people listen or don't listen to us? So take a second, pause the video, and briefly answer these questions. Okay. So, although we value people listening to us, we actually all aren't very good listeners. Even though we're listening a lot, right? We're not great at it, So individuals actually only recall 50% of a message immediately after listening to it, and only 25% of that message after a short amount of time has passed. So think about this. The information I'm giving you now, you are only retaining 50% of that. Is that insane? And then if you waited, an hour and we asked you again, like, okay, what did you learn about listening? You'd only be able to recall 25% of that. So keeping that in mind, right, just of our daily lives, how good we listen, getting a message across in your speech, you can imagine is very difficult, but it is not impossible. And from our last speech, right, we brought up that audience analysis, creating that relevance, being engaging, creating interest. That stuff can help people listen. But as the audience, right, let's learn about how we, as audience members, can better listen and better retain a message. So, first things first is this idea of hearing versus listening. So hearing is just this simply the act of receiving sound. Like y'all are hearing me talk. That doesn't mean you're listening, right? Where listening is the active process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to a spoken nonverbal message. So listening is a whole, system and process. Where hearing, it's just like you're sitting there and you hear sounds around you. For example, like someone who is deaf and like uses sign language to communicate, they can listen to a message, but they won't necessarily hear the message. Does that make sense? So that's kind of something I want you to think about. Like when you're sitting there listening to speeches, are you just hearing it or are you really listening? So ways to listen effectively, right? So how as the audience members can I be better at listening? So first is preparing yourself, right? This can be physically and this can also be intellectually. So this could be like, say you had a bad night's sleep and you are super tired and it's just so hard to focus. Preparing yourself would be because I know I'm tired and having a hard time focusing, I need to make sure before class or before that speech, I get coffee or Red Bull or um, I walk around and get the blood pumping, right? So that's preparing yourself physically. Intellectually, preparing yourself could be like beforehand, you read up or familiarize yourself with certain topics. So you kind of already know what the speech is going to be about. So then you're not completely lost, right? So you're like, oh, I know kind of what they're talking about, but they're adding new information. So that's ways to prepare yourself both physically and intellectually. Next is be willing to expend energy. So think about this. It's not like you're just like watching TV, like passively. I want you to be evaluating, watching, decoding messages, right? Like you're really understanding and taking the energy and time to be present be able to evaluate, watch their delivery, and decode messages that they are sending to you. Next is listening analytically, right? So this basically, I just want you to be focusing on what are they saying, right? Analyze the speech, analyze their message. So I want you to focus on their main ideas. What main ideas are they creating? Do they make sense? Um, and then evaluate their supports, right? Are those statistics, definitions, do they make sense? Are they reliable? Um, are they even supporting their main points, right? Sometimes people will be like support a main point, but like they don't even tie together. So if we were listening analytically, we'd be able to pick up on those things. Where if we were just listening very passively, we just be like, oh, okay, they have their support. But really they're just saying a bunch of nonsense, truly. Next is taking notes. I'm a big note taker. I'm sure some of y'all in here, when I do these lectures, y'all are taking notes out of the wazoo. Out of the wazoo. Out the wazoo. Um, which totally relatable. For your speeches, at least in this class, right? We have those peer evaluations. So those kind of help guide you to listen effectively, right? It makes sure like, right, I'm watching that eye contact, I'm watching their delivery, I'm hearing their main points. I'm watching their visuals, right? Um, so taking notes, giving them that feedback of what they did really well and what could they work on. That helps us listen because we need to be able to listen and observe in order to give those peer evaluations. Next is resisting distractions. So this could be auditory, visual, physical, mental. So there's a bunch of distractions that we are fighting when we are trying to listen effectively, right? So, you know, mentally is that like, oh, like, am I hungry? Or like, I feel blah, or I feel this. So, or your brain is just like, you're staring out the window, like, oh, what am I going to do today, right? You're being distracted mentally. Then, auditory, so kind of listening, you're like, oh, what was that noise? Like maybe someone like dropped something in the hallway. There was a loud noise above us. You're like, what was that, right? So your brain is getting distracted by outside noises. Um, physically, right? Like your state of feeling. So you're like, oh gosh, like I have a headache, my leg is itchy, um, my toe is hurting. Like, you know, this like those things that you're like, oh gosh, and it takes you away for a second and you're like, oh dang, like I'm not even listening. Um, and then visually, right? The lighting's weird. I don't like the clothes they're wearing today. They have a random hair sticking up on top of their head, right? So all of these different distractions, physically, mentally, visually, auditory, all of these things that are taking us away from that stream of focus on that speech. Easier said than done, of course, but being aware of like, oh, this is a distraction, let's bring us back. That's something that I want you to be aware of and think about. Next is avoiding fake listening. So, what does that mean? So that's that's when you're literally like nodding, smiling, making great eye contact, yet you are just hearing. There is no listening going on. You are not processing any messages. Um, yeah, you are not processing what is being said at all. Like imagine, and I have 1000% done this. I am not calling anyone out. I have done this out the wazoo. But oh, apparently word of the day is wazoo, I guess. Anyways, look, distraction. Um, but think about if you are fake listening, imagine someone calling you out and because they assume that you are listening. Imagine I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna pick on Brian because he's literally in the front row, but oh yeah, Brian, like, what do you think about this?" And Brian's just like, like he was just fake listening, like not actually listening to me, but he was giving me eye contact, he was nodding, he was smiling. So I assumed he knew what I was talking about, right? So avoid that fake listening. It'll put you in a tricky situation. Next is giving speakers a fair chance. So this is the thought of, right? You might reject a speaker because how they look, the clothes they are wearing, or even the organization they represent instead of their actual message, right? So it's like you have these preconceived notions or you think this person stands against things that you don't like that you're not about and right so you kind of have this idea of like you're rejecting the speaker before you even hear the message itself so because sometimes when we reject the speaker what they look like the clothes they're wearing morals or values that they might have we're not even giving them a chance to make a point and say their message because we're just not even going to listen because we don't like what they're about. But there's a very high chance that this speaker is going to say things you agree with or expand your mind or um add something to your life that you didn't have before. So giving speakers a fair chance I think is very, very important and sometimes things we don't really think about because we are biased people. It's just who we are. But remember how this affects your listening. You kind of zone out. You don't trust anything they say. Give them a fair chance. Once they say their messages and then their messages aren't making sense, then you can judge them as you may. And lastly is controlling emotions, right? This kind of ties into giving speakers a fair chance, but controlling your emotions. So say like a speaker makes a comment or brings up a topic and you automatically go in emotional mode and you don't actually listen to the points that they're actually making. Because there's actually a chance that you may agree on some points. So just be aware of what topics make me emotional or kind of make me feel a type of way and be aware of that when you're listening to different speeches and topics and just communicating with people on the outside world, social media, you know, make sure you kind of have a neutral point of view to really understand where they're coming from. Again, giving that speaker a fair chance. Okay, so next, we all know that this is I don't know if this is going to be mad at me. I'm not even going to try. But from our last speech or our last lecture, we know that my video was struggling. So I linked this in D2L. It should be bad listener example of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I want you to pause this video, go there, watch this video, think about the audience, what they look like, um, how is their listening skills going, etc. And then come back here and we'll kind of talk about it. Okay, crew, now that we have watched our Ferris Bueller's Day Off video, um, yeah, I'm like, how many of y'all is this your first time seeing this? Because that's crazy if it is, but I literally grew up watching this. It's so cute and so fun. But if you haven't watched it, 1000% you need to watch this. It is so cute, so fun. Love it. Anyways, okay. So like I said before, how was the audience in this clip? Did they seem like good or bad listeners and why? So I'm sure we kind of all picked up on that this audience was not a very good listening audience, right? Like we're not even going to think about our speaker, right? Our speaker's delivery was horrendous, so this is why it's important to be engaging. But just the audience itself, right? They had like what do they say, the 50-yard stare going on. Some were sleeping, some were chewing gum, some were just being like aggressive, like I um eye contact literally not there. Some people didn't have even emotions or had like a bored face going on. So that is just not the way we want to listen. So let's get into, as the audience, what are your responsibilities? So the listener's responsibilities, one is to show courtesy and respect. So think of this as this golden rule. If you were the speaker, how would you want the audience to act? Right? Pretty straightforward, right? If you were the professor in that video, you'd probably be like, oh gosh, like, what am I doing wrong? They hate me, and in that case, that's probably true, right? But think about when you're the audience member, like, think back to like your demo speeches, right? When you were the audience member, like, did you hate anyone that went up there? Did you so disagree with anything they said? Did you want to like laugh at them because they embarrassed themselves? Truly not. Like there's a high chance that that's not what happened at all, right? So you may give off like the face, like straight face, literally no reaction, maybe kind of a bored face, and as the speaker, you're like, "Oh my gosh, these people hate me." When in reality, like you know what I mean? They're just like not giving you very good nonverbals. They could be thinking in their head, "Oh, this person's great." So, if you think about as the speaker, if you're up there seeing your audience members, what would you want to see, right? So, and we'll get into that with providing encouragement. But so think of the golden rule. Then, obviously, avoiding electronics. Don't be on your phone. Don't have your laptop out. It's just another opportunity for, distractions. And it kind of it like tells your speaker, like, my time is more important than yours, right? That, like, you're not important enough to listen to. So just keep that in mind when you have your electronics if you check your phone while someone is speaking. Also multitasking, right? If you are trying to work on other assignments while someone is speaking, or you're texting, or you're reading, even if it's for a second, just think about how the speaker may interpret that, right? They might not interpret it positively or negatively, or very positively, even though you might have just checked it for a second. Your mom said, "Hey, can you stop by the store on the way home?" Right? Even if it was something little like that, your speaker still doesn't understand that. So make sure to avoid those electronics, avoid that multitasking. Think, if you were the speaker, how would you want the audience to act? Next is providing encouragement. So this is that, right? So think back to our bad example audience in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? Eye contact. So don't lean back in your chair. It kind of looks like, you're trying to get away or you're bored or you're just passively listening. Don't fold your arms. Take those notes. So doing those peer evals look like, okay, they're listening. They have something to say. Um, Smiling, nodding, right? That eye contact, taking notes, smiling at your audience, nodding, right? I think at times, sometimes even like when y'all are doing your speeches and like I can hear you hitting each point, especially in your introduction, that I want to hear, like I'll be nodding in the back, like, mm-hmm, perfect, perfect, giving you that feedback. Also, sometimes if I feel like y'all are kind of nervous or y'all might be struggling a little, I might make more eye contact and nod at you. So I make sure that like, you're doing great. You're doing awesome. I hear you. We're listening. So think about that, right? Like maybe someone genuinely just needs you to like nod and smile at them to give them that encouragement to be like, I got this, right? Breathe in, breathe out. Like, okay, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. I can kill the speech, right? Think of just that little thing, which took you 5 seconds to do to look them in the eyeballs, smile, and nod. That can make a world of a difference to them. So, providing encouragement, super important. And lastly, is finding value in every speech, right? Like, think about, is there any new information you didn't know? Are they using delivery techniques you like? What could you learn from this speaker's mistakes? Right? Even if there's a speech that you are not vibing with, literally make a game out of it, right? Like, what can you take from this speech despite your lack of interest? Um, and then if there is a speech that you're truly like, I cannot stand this speech, it's all over the place, I don't like what they're talking about, use it as a what not to do lesson. So again, what can I learn from the speaker's mistakes? So whether it's a great speech or a not so great speech, think about how you can find value in each one, right? Gamify it, right? Add that gaming mentality to add some pizzazz to it. So, your responsibilities as the listener is to show courtesy and respect, provide encouragement, and find value in every speech. Okay, this lecture, very short, very sweet, very to the point. But again, remember, I want you to not only be aware of like listening and all those things, but I also want you to review our audience analysis from last week because your quizzes will be on both. Quiz 4's audience analysis, quiz 5 will be on listening. Okay, so now that we've discussed, right, what hearing versus listening is, how to listen effectively, what good and bad listening will look like, and what are your responsibilities as the audience, as the listeners are. I want us to now think about our next speech, which is our informative speech, which is so exciting. So let's go to D2L and, okay, boom. So if we go to week 5, which insane in the mix. Wait. Oh, I was about to say, okay, so I put everything on week 5. I will change that. We are on week 4, not the brain fart moment. Also, these dates don't make sense, do they? Oh my gosh. I'm a literal mess. Anyways, I am now fully aware. Was this even right? That's what it is. I'm not even in your class. Oh my gosh, I was freaking out for a second. I was like, oh my God, how did I get hired? Okay, this should make a lot more sense. Okay, let's go to content. Boom. Okay, week 4. Wow, amazing. Okay. Week 4, listening effectively, audience analysis, right? You have the link that y'all already saw. Plus 4 is already up. Okay. Our informative speech. Okay. So this will have everything you need to know. But so in a little bit, or our next lecture, we're going to go into research and citing your sources. So we will be all good in the hood on that one. So this speech again will be 3 minutes and 30 seconds to actually, I'm going to make this 5:30. 3:30 to 5:30. Again, thinking about topics, the best place is to think about your major hobbies job. Go for the people who did your brainstorming topic sheet. That is an excellent, excellent place to kind of go to and reflect on, think about moving forward. Examples, right? Sea turtles, the Star Wars franchise, rap history in Houston, JFK, right? We can't spell in this house, assassination, or Elton John, right? There's such a wide range. I will say I did sea turtles for my informative speech when I did public speaking, which is so funny. Right? And I kind of divided that into um let me think what I probably did. I probably did, the types of sea turtles, um, the anatomy and biology of a sea turtle. Um, and then lastly, you know, sea turtles being endangered and how to help them or whatever. Um, but yeah, so the world is your oyster when it comes to topics, right? You have this huge umbrella of what you can do. The hardest part about this is keeping your opinion out, being completely unbiased, right? We are biased human beings like naturally. It's hard to completely take out, bias. But in this case, think you are the teacher. You are just telling us what we need to know. You are not persuading us to do something, right? I'm not persuading y'all to like go be, public speakers for the rest of your life. I'm just teaching y'all how to be good public speakers. You can do whatever you want with this information, and I'm not telling you how to use the information. I'm just letting you know what you need to know about it. Does that make sense? So this is a fully unbiased speech, which requires good research and sources. So for this speech, I require you to orally cite 4 sources during your speech. So this is you cite them out loud, and we'll go over this in the next lecture. But this is basically you saying, according to this author, this source in March 15th, 2024, they quoted and said, blah, 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 blah. That's what I want to hear literally in your speech, right? So I want to hear 4 out loud as an oral citation. And then I'll be requiring a bibliography/citations page along with your outline with a total of 6 citations. So I need 6 sources, 6 research sources from you, but you only need to say 4 of them out loud. Key things, right? 3:30 to 5:30. My people who went over, practice, practice, practice for the speech, right? It's such a silly thing to be knocked down a whole grade just because of um time. So that is everything. Note cards again, 3 to 5. Um, look back at your feedback from your demo speech, what I said about note cards. Um, these hold on, let me make this clear. Note cards are mandatory. You need to have them. right? So, and they are in your rubric, but you need to have note cards. I don't care if you're like, oh, I know this like the back of my hand. Especially for those citations, your note cards will be everything, right? A thing my other class asked was if I read my citation straight off my note card, will I get points off? Oh my gosh, no. I do not expect you to memorize what someone else said and the date and the source. So when you're reading that citation, I'm totally fine with you reading off your note card completely. The rest of the speech needs to be completely from you. And that is why picking a topic that you know very well is going to be helpful. Something you know well that you're excited about, you're passionate about will be because to fill in those gaps over an informative topic will be difficult, but if you know it, you love it, you're passionate about it, you got it. So for this one, I know it would be great and amazing to have a PowerPoint where we can have pictures and people can see it better. But I will say, demo speech, we had visual aids. Your pitch speech, you're going to have a trifold. And then your last speech, your persuasive, you won't have visuals at all. So I don't want you to go into your persuasive kind of relying on a PowerPoint to kind of take the pressure off you. So we are going full naked and afraid, no visual aids for this. I just want you to get used to, being up front, in the middle, using that movement, being able to use those gestures effectively and not worry about making sure your slide goes to the next one, right? So for this one, no PowerPoints, no visual aids. Again, 4 oral citations, those are cited out loud during the speech. 6 total in your bibliography or citation page. And then again, outline with bibliography attached, due 9 a.m. on D2L. Sound good? Okay, let's go over our rubric. So each rubric is going to look different. It's not going to look exactly the same. So this, we're breaking down a bit further. It's going to like each rubric is going to be a little more extensive. So our emphasized skills for this speech is our oral citations, right? Impressive, effective, passable, miss the mark, and our delivery. So how did we deliver it? And we will go over delivery skills upcoming as well. Next is attention getter. Yes, no. Thesis statement, yes, no. But see, look, it's high stakes, right? It's either you get it and get 5 points. If you don't have it, you get 0. Previewed the body of the speech with main points. Yes. Did you build audience relevance, interest? Yes, no. Did you establish credibility? Yes, no. So if you hit everything that we talked about in your introduction, boom, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That's 30 points. Boom. Or 25 points. Then we have where your main points clearly stated. Did we understand as the audience? Okay, now this is what we're talking about. And now this is what we're talking about. Next is 4 oral citations clearly stated. So did I hear them out loud? Were they cited correctly? So it's like if I heard them, yes. Were they cited correctly? Did you have the publication, the date, the author, title, all the things we needed to know? Yes, kind of no. Now we're divided into 3 main points. So this is, did you have an oral citation, appropriate examples, and analogies to support your main points? Yes, kind of no, and that's for all of them. Conclusion with review of main points and effective closing statement. Yes, kind of no. Language was appropriate and clear. You avoided major stumbles or memory issues, right? You delivered your speech smoothly. Your reference list had all 6 citations, and then was it in time? Sound good? Ugh. Your outline will be on here as well as the note cards. It's just, it doesn't like how many things I have on here and it actually like glitches up. So our next lectures will be over, we'll have oral citations and we'll have delivery. So you will be experts when it comes to this. Okay, now that we have gone over, we've gone over the rubric. I want to go over outline. So your template is on here, which is that info outline doc. Oh, shoot. Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. Okay. So this looks literally exactly the same as your demo speech, which is exactly what it's supposed to look like. So things that are changing are organizational pattern. Um, Remember we talked about this when we talked about like selecting a topic and outlining. For informative, you're either doing a topical organizational pattern or a cause and effect. So topical, kind of the world is your oyster. It's just your main points. Oh, I'll change those to main points. I don't like the steps, but your main points are just like topics and categories, right? It could be if you did Elton John, um, early childhood, um, adulthood, and then uh present elderly age. I don't know how to say that. Um, but you could divide it like that. You could divide it like childhood while getting famous, like starting out, and then now that he's been famous for a long time. You could do it off of literally you could um do albums. You could do like Elton John's three most popular albums. Album one is this. Go into the history of it, how it got made, what songs are on it, what top songs are there, right? You won't tell us your favorite, but you'll just report what his audience says, what his audience says about each album. Again, though, whatever topic you choose, why should your audience care? Boom. Okay. Then cause or effect. So this is kind of your topic will be this thing happened, and then here are the effects of it are your main points. So, like for example, for World War One, our Archduke, I don't know. See, I had to ask my other public speaking class about this, so I apologize for butchering this, but remember I'm not your history professor. So, when Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated, that affected and like put into like the whatever put into motion World War One. So because that happened, how did that affect everyone else? Why did people get involved? Why did it even start? Who started it, right? You could give us literally the background of like history events and wars and why it happened and how it happened, right? So that's just things to think about, right? Have the same exact things, transitions, that support there, and we'll go over that in our upcoming speeches, what you would fill in there. But yeehaw, you got your outline. Now that we got our outline, I also I found a informative, example for it. So in case you needed help going somewhere, wanted to see how like people like divided up topics. Um, this isn't exactly what I want or want it to look like. This is way too much. As you guys know, I like it divided and little, and I even want smaller bullet points here. But this kind of gives you an idea of how you could split it up, some introduction, um, or attention getters, introduction examples, concluding statements as well. So there's your example there. Other than that, your informative speech, that's all I have for you there. So think about what questions or clarifications you might have for me for our next class, and I'll be happy to clear that up for you. So while we're on D2L, now that I've assigned your informative speech, um, also topic ideas. I have this link that has tons of informative speech topics. Boom, once we get down here, all these things. I will make a disclaimer that these aren't all amazing, right? Because look, this is the why you should go vegan. You're trying to convince us of something, and that is not what I want in an informative speech. So when looking at these, if it says should, let's see, like how you can reduce your, hello? Oh, there we go. How you can reduce your carbon footprint, right? That's just informing. But let's see if we find a should. See pros and cons of the current educational system. You are giving us both sides. That's amazing. That's awesome. Private versus public school, you're comparing and contrasting them. Awesome. Um, the importance of discipline, right? You're convincing us that this is important. So just be mindful on some of these of like they're convincing you of something versus just informing you. So, yeah, how to create a, or I guess that's a demo speech, but um the most bizarre or just conspiracy theories. I think doing it, I said JFK assassination because you can do all this research and get a bunch of different points of view, right? You could say the mainstream media, this is the, you know, right? Was it, see, I always get confused because they both are like Oswald, but because Lee Harvey Oswald, that's Abraham Lincoln, right? Hold up. Not the sidetracking in the pre-recorded lecture. Um, JFK. Okay. What's her man? Oh, it is. Oh, wait. Okay, wait. Then who is okay? Abraham Lincoln's. I know some of y'all are yelling at me the answer. Okay, am I missing this? John Wilkes Booth. That's not close at all. Lee Harvey Oswald and John Wilkes Booth. Okay, so don't know. Again, not your history professor. Okay, where are we at? Oh, conspiracy theories are great because you have all these different like sides and you can give us like what the mainstream media knew, and what, some subgroups, subcultures, conspiracy theorists, what like the theories off of that. So the world really is your oyster. You can even just kind of go like science vibes, like how your brain works, how solar panels work, how galaxies are formed, um, which is super interesting. One of my See, is it kind to keep a monkey as a pet? See, that's persuasive. So there's a couple in here that are like, but and see, like this is dem like a demo speech. But yeah, other than that, majority of them are pretty great and interesting. So the world's your oyster. So definitely look at that page. Ugh, hold on, give it a second. I gotta be careful. Boom. Oh, here we go. So we have the informative topic ideas. So now that I have informed y'all of your informative speech, now that I've assigned it, now these out of class challenges, they are open, they are ready to go. So now you can schedule a coaching session with me. Remember when you email me that I need to know if you're doing a planning session or a delivery. This is basically planning is I'm helping you write, organize what words to use, brainstorm topics, work on your intro conclusion, all of that. Anything with like the outline and making sure it sounds good. The delivery session is that you have written it, and you are ready to perform it, and you want me to give feedback on your nonverbals, your voice, all your delivery. So email me, specifically ask me, like, give me maybe two, yeah, 2 or 3 days and times that work with you, and whether it's delivery or planning, and I will get back to you. But remember, times I'll be on campus, um, are these times, and these are going to change in like 3 weeks because my 8-week course is going to be over. Um, and then obviously Zoom any time of the week. So those are open. Is that it, right? Out of class, not my notes. Okay, so now that I have assigned your informative speech, let's review what we talked about today. So we talked about listening effectively, and then I assigned your informative speech. So our assignments for the week are quiz 4 and 5. Um, these are, again, audience analysis, and then this is going to be over listening, so make sure you go over audience analysis. And then informative speeches. For our next class, I want you to have 3 topics listed. So go over those brainstorming sheets you did, look over the informative speech topic list that I just showed you. Think about your hobbies, your passions, things you're interested in. Um, Even look into social media and stories and that, right? That could be like where you build your relevance, things that are happening now. Um, so have 3 selected for our next class, and for a question of the day, we will look over those. Um, if you have selected your topic, you're ready to go, then working on your outline. First thing I want you to do is come up with your specific purpose and then make those main points. How are you dividing? How are you organizing, right? So I may ask you if you have a topic you're solid on, that you're like, this is what I want to do, then I'm going to ask you, okay, what was your specific purpose and how are you organizing? What are your main points? Again, right, our out of class challenges that you can now do or schedule a coaching session with me, or an info practice log. Remember, if you have scheduled a coaching session with me already, there's a challenge for each speech. So the ones that did it for your demo speech, that's completely separate than this one. So you can also do this for the informative and get credit. Same thing with the practice logs as well. Just so we are all on the same page, so far we have done 7 challenges out of the 15 total that you need. So make sure you look in the grade book, see which ones, keep track of what challenges you have done, what number you're at, but this is how many I have assigned so far. So with that, also make sure all grades should be up to date in the grade book. Please go into the grade book, look at everything I've inputted, and make sure I gave you credit, especially those people who have done like the practice logs or a coaching session. Make sure that I have put those in and I haven't forgotten. Okay? So I know today's kind of a shorter one, but I want you to really be take this extra time that we have in our quote unquote class, but I think we should have like 20 minutes left around there. Take that time to look at those topics. Literally set your timer 20 minutes and look at your brainstorming sheet, look through all the topics and come up with three that are you like the best. And if you have already decided, wait, this is exactly what I want to do, then make up your specific purpose and main points. Okay, crew. Um, if See, it feels wrong to end without asking for any questions, but if there's any questions, make sure you write them down and ask them on Wednesday. Wednesday, we are going to be doing an in-class challenge over audience analysis. So make sure you are there, ready to party. And y'all have a good day, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.